Welcome to the Creation to Cash Flow podcast. On this podcast, we discuss strategies to maximize your creativity and help you achieve financial freedom. Hi, Michelle. How is it going?
Hi, I'm just cracking up right now. As soon as you started talking, my dog my dog got a new toy and it's a squeaky toy. And every time you would start saying something, it would squeak. And I was like, oh my God, I really hope that this is not being heard. But I'm good. Today has just it's been a funny, just interesting morning so far. How has your day been? How are you doing?
I'm like wildly overstimulated today, um, but I'm going fishing this afternoon and the world will shut off and all will be fine, I'm sure. So, feeling grateful for that.
Today, I have to reorganize my entire home office, including all of my cords and cables and cabinets. So, my overstimulation hasn't even started yet. Like, I'm about to be balls deep, knees deep, whatever that term is, in overstimulation, but I'm going to push through and do it for a video.
Okay, wow. I know the final product is going to be amazing, but yeah, that sounds like that's going to be a long shoot.
Yes, but it's going to be worth it, I hope.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we at least have a lot to be grateful for, and we're still happy with where we are in this moment, despite the fact that we got a lot going on today.
Yeah.
And that is what we're going to talk about on today's episode. We're going to talk about how to be happy with where you are because you're going to have challenging days, you're going to feel overstimulated sometimes, but like I'm still living in gratitude. I'm still so blessed, and it's going to take a lot more than just things going wrong to ever pull me out of that.
Hold on. Oh my God, my dog.
Special guest.
Look, I'm still grateful. I have so much to be grateful for. I the thing is, I laugh because the things that come up that are unexpected, it is all perspective. It's mindset. I could be annoyed, I could be ungrateful, I could be like, why is this happening and be a victim. But at the end of the day, I'm just so grateful to like be alive and be here and things come up and honestly it keeps life so entertaining. And so I really want to press into that. Like I know I just said I'm going to be overstimulated with work, and I hope it's worth it. The thing is, I know it's going to be worth it because I'm going to have learned something. I'm going to grow in my skills. And to me, that's worth it. Like I'm going to give something my all, not expecting any specific outcome. And it keeps me grateful and grounded.
Yeah, it's true. And also the best way to like become a patient person is to have your patience tested. And that's definitely happening for us today. Um,
Literally.
but it works. Like you don't just wake up or you're just born and you're like, I'm extremely patient and rational in every decision that I make. Every time something goes wrong, I handle it perfectly. Like the only way to become patient is to have your patience tested. And the only way to be really grateful and be really happy with where you're at is to first, you might go through a period of not being happy with where you're at, but the solution is not always as simple as like, oh, let me just change where I'm at, right? Like, oh, I want to be a millionaire. Let me just do that. It's not that easy. So you have to come to terms with things and you have to really look yourself in the mirror and be like, this is where I am right now. I can sit here and complain about it. And a portion of my life, whether it's a day, a week, or 10 years, I'm going to look back on negatively because I was feeling negative emotions during it. Or you can just flip the switch and be like, you know what? This is where I am right now. This is where I'm meant to be. And one thing you said, you saw it on your phone yesterday and you sent it to me, and I was like, oh, that's so perfect. The reason that you are where you are is because you probably are not done there yet. You have more work to do there. And I feel like that hit hard for me, because I've talked several times to you and on this podcast about like some of my goals to move to Central America and things like that. But like here I am still in New Jersey, and sure, I complain about it sometimes, but like it's just like funny banter. I'm actually like so grateful to live here. Like I'm by my friends, my family. I got everything I need right here and I'm so grateful for it. It's fun sometimes to like be the devil's advocate and like, talk my shit about New Jersey, but like I actually love where I'm at and it's what allowed me to get to where I am in like business and life and spirituality.
Yeah. And you're always like, until you're ready to move on to that next season or have that next door open, you almost have to have that perspective, right, Nick? Like, you almost have to be like, I'm here for a reason. Like, if I wasn't meant to be here, I wouldn't be here. So, I need to figure out what is it that I need to complete before moving on to the next step, because it's important to have goals and want to move to Central America or whatever your goals are. And you can do that while still being grateful and present in the moment, because you may never get to that next step if you're not willing to do what needs to be done in your current situation. And, I've seen this happen in my own life so many times. And if I'm just sitting there like, I hate my job, I hate what I'm doing, and I'm constantly closing my mind to the opportunities around me and the people around me, I'm never going to go anywhere else in life, which is what I think happens to a lot of people. And then they feel defeated, or maybe that something in them wasn't good enough to have their dreams in life. Others can do it, I can't do it. That kind of mindset, it's not true. But if you're constantly only looking forward to the future, only waiting to be happy, then you're not going to get the happiness. It's so like backwards, but it makes a lot of sense.
It's so true. I didn't even plan on bringing this up, but now it's just obvious that I have to. At my former job, like my 9 to 5 job, I was miserable there and I'm open about that. But like, I didn't sit there and pout. Like, part of why I was miserable was because like, I wanted to just be me. I wanted to eat mostly meat and fruit and eat my meals in the sun. And I wanted to do yoga every day. And like, I knew how I wanted my days to be, but I was like, you know what? I can't quit here yet. I'm not done here. So I got to make do with what I got. And it made me just uncomfortable enough that like it built me into who I am. Like I would get to work and I would make steak or bacon or eggs in the toaster oven of this like office, and everyone obviously thought I was like the office crazy person for sure, because the whole office would smell like steak or bacon or whatever every single morning, and you would see me like cutting up a kiwi or a banana and putting honey all over everything, and I was just like, I think this is part of what has to happen, because if I can't be comfortable around other people like being myself, how am I going to show up on social media and do that if I can't do it in my own office where I work and I'm employed? So I had to get so uncomfortable and I had to learn to be as happy as possible with where I was at. And that's when the good things started happening. That's when I started to go viral on social media a little bit. And I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But at first, like the first year when I just kind of like pouted there, I was like, this kind of sucks. I go to work every day. I come home and I hate it. Nothing good was happening and nothing good was in store for me.
Yeah. Wow. I had two major things just come to my head when you were talking, and they both just went away. But I'm trying to remember them. Because, okay, one of them is like looking out for signs, right? Like you just said, once you decided to be yourself and show up and like do what would make you happy in that office, then you started to see things go viral, things start happening. And I think that life gives us signs. We see green flags and red flags, and sometimes beige flags. And for you, for everybody, if you're unhappy, that is a huge red flag. That is a huge dictator of something has to change. And it's up to you to decide what to change. You might not know what needs to change. Start with one thing. Start with bringing what you desire into the office. Start by filming around your family. Don't be afraid to show up even in your own home as yourself, right? And so you have to almost like, you have to make changes. And then if something starts to work, then you keep heading in that direction. If you are unhappy, that's a red flag, and you do something else and then that's also really bad, then just do something different. Pivot again. Keep pivoting until you find your path, because your path is different than everybody else's in the entire world. And that's the beautiful discovery of life. Like, that's the beautiful journey we get to go on. And you don't need to just wallow in your job and think nothing else is out there, but instead use the little signs of life, the green flags and the red flags. Does this make me happy? Do I feel fulfillment? Am I feeling joy right now on these things that I'm doing? Then keep doing them or do more of them. If not, then don't do them. Like, it's very simple, but oh my God, Nick, it's so hard.
Yeah, it's true. It is extremely difficult, and it's a daily battle too. It's not just like a, oh, I won. It's like, no, you could win 3 days in a row and then lose the next day and have to come back the fifth day and try and win this battle again. But like, even if you can just stack those small wins just enough that you start to see that progress, kind of like you were saying, like trying these new things and exploring, and you might find like, I know it's not that because I hate that, but now you have another direction to try. You're like, well, I need to move away from that, and you got to go try these new things and put yourself out there and find a way to work yourself into new environments. Like part of what I did, um, in that same like period of my life, like there were so many things I wanted. I wanted to be able to take a yoga class in the middle of the day, and I wanted to be able to play golf during the week. Like it's not like I didn't want to work. I just hated my working hours because they weren't allowing me to build the life I wanted. But eventually, towards the end of my reign there, um, I made a special request and I was like, hey, I got a lot going on in my life right now, and I'm not going to trauma dump on the podcast, but like I had a lot going on outside of just like my wants and desires. And I switched to 4 10-hour days and I was off Wednesdays. That was massive for me to just start like take I took a step in the direction, and I made the uncomfortable choice of sitting down with my boss and being like, "Hey, I've got a crazy request and I need you to accept it." And that's how this has to happen. Um I need off Wednesdays and I will work harder Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You're not even going to notice, but like I need off Wednesdays. And they were like, we could try it for a little bit, but we're going to be watching you. And I was like, fine, perfectly fine. And all of a sudden now, Wednesdays became like my golf day. And Wednesday mornings, I would work on my business and I would sit in the sun and I would have that meal. And I was like, that little step has gotten me so much closer. Like, I'm now so much happier with where I'm at just because I can see where I'm heading. It didn't fix everything. Now my Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday were even longer and more miserable. But it was like I could see a little bit. I could see the progress building, and that's when it snowballs. But it's really hard at first to be happy with where you're at when you're objectively not happy.
Yeah, I love that creative problem solving. I just find it so interesting too how a lot of my red flags for me were because I was working in an office and I couldn't go outside during the day and get sun. I remember I used to just make an excuse to walk to the other building to get coffee just so I could get a little bit of sun. Like, I was so happy when the world shut down and I got to work from home because I would be on my computer laying out in the backyard in the sun, and I was like, oh my gosh, this feeling is something that I am meant to feel. And now, like, fast forward 4 years, I can go down to my pool at any time or up to the hot tub on the roof. And like, I get to live that dream. And it was in there for a reason. And instead of me being like, oh my God, I can't go on the boat during the day anymore because I used to do that in college. Like, I can't go jet ski with my friends that aren't working right now because they're still like ready to graduate, whatever, not working. I instead was like, this is where I'm at. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to show up with excellence, and I'm going to still have that dream of being outside someday while I can work, but I'm not going to let it stop me from being where I'm at. And like, I didn't ever think I could live in a high rise in my dream city, Los Angeles, and be an actress, but also have a podcast and be able to make my own hours. Like, Nick, I didn't actually think that was possible for me. Like, it was a dream. I saw others doing it and I was like, that'd be so cool. But like, that's just not where my life is right now. But now I'm like, dang, I didn't even really have to do much of anything except listen to the little bitty signs along the way. Like, I didn't do anything massive to get here. It was all the little bitty things, and every red flag I would turn a different direction that brought me here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That's why it's so hard to teach others, because I'm like, you just got to take it one step at a time, like quite literally, one step at a time.
That is so perfect. Like that is the exact action step. It's not like there's no switch to flip. It is like you got to just little by little take those steps that get you closer. Like you had that same moment where you were like sitting in the sun working on your laptop and you were like that is like it feels like analogous. Is that what it means? To like is an analogy to analogous? That might have been I might have bit off more than I could chew there.
I don't know what that word is.
I think that it means like this would make a good analogy. Might have bit off more than I could chew there, but the point being, my Wednesday, like getting Wednesdays off, was the same as you, like having that moment in the sun where we were like, I just got a little taste, and now I see that it's possible for me, and I want the rest, and it makes it so much easier to be happy with where you're at because you're like, you get that little moment of happiness, and you're like, my decisions, my little steps are actually getting me closer. And now is the first moment I'm truly seeing it and feeling it. And I could think of other like moments like that. And I'm sure you had a bunch where you're like, I just got a little glimmer of what life could be like. And that is going to keep me going forever. Um, but the action step is just showing up consistently every day and taking that step towards where you want to be. I guess the other important action step is knowing where you want to be. And that could be like a physical location, a certain job you're working, looking a certain way, whatever the thing is, you have to know. Oh, here's another good one. I think I've talked plenty of times about the vision board I had in my cubicle. Um, I kind of like when I used to hide money from myself, I used to hide notes for myself too. And I had a sticky note that I put behind the vision board. So the day I was like quitting and I took it down, there was a little sticky note, and I think it said, "How will you know if you're where you dreamed of going if you don't even know what that looks like?" Or something like that. I feel like I butchered it a little bit, but it was like some beautiful quote that I left myself that was like, "You won't know if where you won't know where you want to go if you don't even understand what that looks like." It was beautifully written. I'm gonna have to dig that up now because I feel like I butchered it, but it was just such a nice reminder to me of like, wow, like everything has added up to this. Every little step that I took that I didn't feel like doing because I wasn't happy with where I'm at has led me to getting there.
Yeah. And that's the balance of like have goals and dreams, but know that they can come too. Like know that they're coming and you can be the type of person who's grateful now. That's another thing too. It's very hard to remember where I used to be. Like it's very hard, but I'm so grateful I've journaled for years so I can look at like where was my mindset. Like guys, please journal. Like please do something to where you have the receipts for later cuz when your life has changed, you want to remember where you were at. But Nick, one thing I used to always do. I always used to say this and I don't know where I got it, but it was just something maybe I found like in a book, probably. But it's that whole thing. It's like be the type of person who. Like, who do you desire to be? What would you be doing when you have X, Y, and Z? Like, I always dreamed about having a house on the hills in the mountains in Los Angeles. I've talked about this so many times. Like, I want that boxy, modern, floor to ceiling window home with a white, it's like white, black, and dark wood. And I just see it. Like, I've always seen myself in something like that. And I'm like, okay, Michelle, you don't have this now. This was back when I was like real broke. And I was like, well, what would those like if when I live there, what would I be doing? Would I be sleeping in every day? Probably not. What would I be doing? Would I be exercising every day? Probably, because that's just a lifestyle I want. Like, so I was like, Michelle, be the type of person who has a business, be the type of person who takes care of her body, be the type of person who looks out for those around you, be the type of person who gives more than you get. Like, who is it that you look up to? What is it that you desire? And start acting like you have it now, which is something that, I mean, like a lot of manifestation says that. But even like aside from manifestation, it's like, it's such a mental game. And I remember I was like, I want to be the type of person who shows up with gratitude, who makes others feel good after work, like who shows up and like when I walk in a room, I feel like a light to others. Like I can bring something of value to others and make their day a little bit better. I want to be that type of person. And I was like I would be that person. And it's such a simple question, but ask yourself what you want and then tell yourself like, okay, I'm going to be the type of person who. Like when I lost all that weight, I was like, I'm going to be the type of person who never eats fast food. And I still haven't 4 years later, over 4 years, no fast food. And my friends the other day were like, "Let's go to," I don't even remember where they said, and I said, "No." I was like, "I y'all can go. I'm gonna go somewhere else. I will not eat fast food." So, yeah. What do you think about all that?
I had to start writing things down because I was like, there was so much good stuff there, and I don't want to miss all of the things I want to respond with. The first one, journaling. Let's go back to that. Oh my God, write shit down. Please, I'm begging all of you, especially on the bad days. Like, it's great to write down, like, I had the best day. I feel so much progress and stuff, but that's easy. Write down the shitty ass days that you're like, boy, would it be nice to quit on this dream. Like, my life would be so much better. I am dying right now, but we'll try again tomorrow. And like, write those things down, my journal entries like that. They're like the best thing in the world to me. They are so fucking motivating. It is unreal. And also just like a reminder of where I'm at and what I used to feel like. Like I have so many from the end of when I was like my light at the end of the tunnel moments. And maybe we should do an episode where we just like read some of our journal entries and reflect on them. That would be really powerful.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Okay, I got to write that down too. Taking a lot of notes this podcast. Next one, they like act as if. Oh my God, so powerful. Like I used to just want so badly to take a yoga class in the middle of the day and to be able to go to the gym at 8 in the morning when no one is there and to cold plunge in like one of those $10,000 cold plunges. And I was like, all right, I got to just act as if I could do these things. So I would go into the bathroom at my job. It was like kind of a spacious bathroom, and I wouldn't like lay on the floor or anything like gross, but like I would stretch a little bit and I'd be like, here I am, like a fucking crazy person doing yoga in the bathroom at my office. But like it would give me that little like I feel a little bit better. And I would try and like sneak off to the gym sometimes, or I would go to the gym at 5 in the morning and then shower at the gym and then go to work, which like kind of sucked, but like it would scratch the itch. And instead of having a nice cold plunge, I would fill my tiny ass bathtub with cold water, and twice I would have to go down the stairs, fill a bowl with ice, dump it in, come back down. And I was like, this is not a very aesthetic process, but like I recorded it and I wrote about it and I acted as if. And then not that long after, I was like, oh, now I actually have a $5,000 cold plunge and I have a gym at home and I can take yoga classes and teach them whenever I want. Um, so you really do have to act as if and take those little small steps. Also, I found the note that I left myself. I found a picture of it. It was so much better written than I was saying. It just says, if you don't know what you want, you'll never know when you've got it. And like, just imagine when I'm taking down my vision board, I'm cleaning out my desk, like I'm closing this chapter to enter a better one, and I find that sticky note tucked away back there. I don't know if I cried, but I probably wanted to for sure. I was like, I really left that for myself, knowing one day that this vision board was going to come down. I don't know if it was going to be 10 years from then or what, but like, I knew one day that like it was going to come true because the things on my vision board were all about leaving that job and just entering this new phase of life. And that's what it said.
I feel like we've already said so many good things. Like, do we have more to say?
I mean, yeah, we could probably go on forever and ever, but you're right. We have said a lot of good things. Here's another good one. Someone else who's kind of living in their moment right now. You ever heard of Michael Block?
No.
He is a now professional golfer, but like he had never played in a professional tournament. Like he just like works at a country club and is like usually the head of a country club is called like the pro, even though they're not technically a professional golfer like on the PGA tour. And he ended up like going to this qualifier tournament or whatever and winning and getting to play in like a championship of golf. And he ended up like he got a hole in one and he ended up playing with some of the best people and like finished in the top 10. And he just had this crazy like life altering thing happen, that he was not prepared for. And he did such a good job of living in the moment because this was like a year ago. And now he just did an interview with someone and he was like, after this, went on every single podcast I was asked to. I didn't turn down one. I went to every charity event. I played in every tournament. I talked to every person. I answered every DM. And he just did such a good job of like living in the present and being happy with where he's at because like he's not going to be a professional golfer forever. Like he may never win a tournament. Um, but like he's just happy with where he's at and he didn't say no to anything. He did every little small tiny task and obligation even though he was probably tired of them and like drained and probably lost some motivation at some point because he had this like quick 15 minutes of fame and then it like started fizzling out and he just did such a good job of being happy with where he was at. And I wanted to share that.
Wow. I mean, yeah, that's what we have to do, right? And it is a balance because it's like we need a rest, but at the same time, we are humans and we have the ability to communicate through language with one another. That is like a huge blessing, like truly. And I think there's a balance between like taking care of yourself, but also showing up. Like he showed up. He showed up. And that is like even answering the DMs, like, oh my gosh, that's people I'm sure felt so grateful that he would do that. And even if he had a team, like he showed up, he was present, he was available. And you never know who you're going to meet. You could be one person away from meeting, or you could be away from meeting that one person that you need in your life to get you to the next step. But if you're so closed off, unhappy with where you're at, you're never going to be open and available for all of the little doors that could be open and somebody to walk through them to you. You know, when I first moved to LA, like we were in the parking garage and this dude like hired me for social media the second we landed in LA, or like landed meaning we drove in, we got out of the car at a new place. And I don't know what he was doing that day. He like came down to get the mail. He could have easily been like, "Oh, I'll get it tomorrow. Oh, I'll get it the next day." But it was like a great connection. And I've made like my best friends here at my apartment and literally life-changing friendships for life. Like some people don't even live in LA anymore and we are still best friends. And it's like had I not shown up to that event, had I not shown up and gone downstairs instead of binge watching a TV with my husband, like had I not, I wouldn't have met these people that have forever changed my life. And so I had to remind myself that like as easy it is as it is to veg out and do nothing and be isolated, it's so life-changing whenever you meet somebody and make a connection that genuinely like is meant to be there because we run across people, we run into people we're meant to run into. Now we just need to like take that moment and cherish it.
Yeah, it really is those little steps, especially the ones when you don't feel like it or you're extra tired and you're like, oh, like it would be so easy not to today. Those days can be so momentous. And it is those little steps. Like for you, it's it's those little steps, those little interactions and showing up positively. Because if you're super down on yourself and you're not happy with where you are, you're not going to show up in the right way during those moments where you're supposed to meet someone that's going to help you on your journey and you're down about something else and now they can sense that and they're not inclined to have a conversation with you or ask you to be their social media manager or anything like that. So it's like you got to show up positively on those tough days because that might be when you have your breakthrough and you don't want to blow it.
Yeah, even online, like I will say there's a couple that lives in my building. They are our best friends. Nick, we've been with them like basically every day for the past 2 weeks. We love them. They're like family to us. And we got connected because I was showing up on social media and one of the people they commented on my video and was like, "Hey neighbor" or whatever. That was like over a year ago. I showed up there. Then there was an event and I ran into this person and then we got connected. That's actually the person that motivated me to go to this acting studio. And it's so crazy because that's the same person who opened up the med spa, who I went to Jamie Foxx's house with. Like they're our best friends. We're going to Dubai with them later this year. One of them was like the top model overseas, like super famous, but he's super low key, so I'm not saying his name because he just does not get on social media right now. And then like I don't know, him and his wife, they are our best friends. And had I never showed up, had I never gone to that event, had I never been a good friend and just been available, like all these opportunities came. And that's just one example. That's just one example. And I'm just like so grateful that I even had faith in myself to move into a building this expensive in the first place. You know, we just don't know who we're meant to come across that will teach us lessons. And, you know, it might even be for a season, but God, people, when you find good people, they change your life. And that, like, it really is about the connections that you make.
It's so true. It's so true. So, I mean, to recap on those action steps, it's like you got to be positive, you got to show up, and you got to know what you're after and what you want things to look like, because then you're not going to know when you have it. You're not going to, if you don't show up positively, you're not going to meet the right people because they're going to look in the other direction, because you could feel and just see someone who's happy or unhappy. Like it's obvious, it's all over everyone's face.
And the thing is, if you're unhappy, you will attract unhappy people. The people you want in your life, like Nick is saying, you want to be that grateful person because you're going to attract grateful people. But grateful people try to like put a blocker up against people that have that negative, pessimistic mindset. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's that positivity. It's acting as if you are already where you want to be, and it's taking all those little steps and documenting the journey too. You'll be so glad you did. If you like, I sometimes when I couldn't do like I couldn't write in my journal, I would just like take a voice recording and just leave it on my phone, like in the voice recordings thing, and just be like, hey, I feel like shit today, here's what I'm going through, and I just wanted to say this because I feel like I'll need it one day. So if you're listening to this in the car and you're like, oh, I want a journal, and you're going to forget later, right after you go, leave us a 5-star review or rating, or send us a message on creationtocashflow.com. Leave yourself a voice memo and just be like, hey, here's where I'm at right now in my life. Here's how I'm feeling. Here's what I want. And I'm hoping to look back on this message in a few weeks, months, or years and be in a completely different place.
I have a lot of videos I've never posted that are just me being like, I have one before I even moved to LA where I was literally like sitting there in the corner of my old house. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where we're supposed to go. I feel this type of way. And it's like a 10-minute video of me just talking to myself. I need to find it. But it's like I did it, like it's out there. And I'm like,
Yeah, we might have to get an episode together where we're looking at our old like videos or journal entries or things like that. And that's all we got for this week. Just be happy with where you are, because when it's time to go someplace else, everything will tell you.
Yep.
And we love you guys. And thanks for listening.
Are you not plugging our socials or anything?
Oh, I felt like I was forgetting something. Still a little overstimulated and working through some things. But yeah, you guys can find us everywhere. Creation to Cash Flow, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. You can find all of those. You can find Michelle on Instagram and TikTok and everywhere else at Michelle JH. That's Michelle with 2 L's, 4 E's, JH. You can find me anywhere at Get Ahead with Nick. Now we're done, and we love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.